everyone, and welcome to Trending in My Life. This week it's podcast 113 and the topic is relationship tips. Now I'm giving you these tips just because I'm the age I am and I've had this many experiences and I've observed relationships in others as well as my own. So take it with a pinch of salt, or maybe something will strike a chord with you and you'll think, oh, yeah, maybe I'll try that. So here we go. An important thing I've found with relationships is to listen. And you're probably going, oh, yeah. But use your listening skills to figure out what kind of person it is that you like. The person in front of you and that you're spending time with does certain things and thinks a certain way. And it's like a mystery for you to figure out. Think of it as a challenge. Why this person thinks a certain way is often because of past life experiences, past relationships they've had, or how they were treated as a child. Sometimes you just want to say, stop doing that, it drives me crazy. But they're just going to get all defensive about that. And you're probably going to find yourself not in a relationship after a while. But instead of that, you just switch it round a bit and say, I really don't understand why you're doing that, and I'd like you to help me understand. Because sometimes their viewpoint is so far removed from your viewpoint, they don't even take into consideration why their actions are driving you crazy, why you don't think exactly the same as them. And it's often with relationships where you do get on really well, to the point where they think that you are just like them. And sometimes you're not, and you're only similar to them in a number of ways, but not every way. And saying to them, stop doing that shit, is not really going to help anything. So trying to be more understanding, trying to figure it out, trying to think of them as a puzzle that you will figure out and you'll understand why they do stuff. And then it makes it a lot easier because you can frame things in a certain way. I mean, often when people have had children, they will frame a trip out somewhere in a very enthusiastic manner, in a way that, oh wow, we're going to do this, and the actual thing they're going to do is pretty boring, but because they've come across with the enthusiasm, the child gets all excited. Well, in a similar way with adults, if you've got somewhere that you need to go, might even be for work, and you want them to come with you, you can phrase it in a way that this will give us some extra time to spend together. You know, when I've finished all the work, we can spend some quality time wherever we are. You can explore the shops, or you can look at the history, if that's what they're into, of the town that we're visiting. And it's in the way you pitch things, it's in the way you phrase things, that you can make them much more appealing to your partner so that they will want to join in with you. And definitely if you've been with a partner for a number of years, it's keeping moments special. You know, you could be sat on a couch eating fish and chips and watching the telly, but you just look across to the person at the other end of the couch and say, you know, I really love you. I just really love you. And it makes all the difference. And it's quite often in long-term relationships that people become comfortable. And I think it's nice to be content with your partner and where you are in life, but being too comfortable can lead to taking them for granted. And that's not a good thing, because you know yourself, you don't like feeling that you're being taken for granted, that you know, you'll always do a certain chore, or you'll always be the one to clean up a mess, or you don't like feeling taken for granted. And it might be that out of the two of you, you are the best one for dealing with stuff like that, but you at least want to thank you. You want to, I really appreciate that you've done that, from the other person, so that you don't feel taken for granted. And it works both ways, so that if you remember to thank them for doing things for you, then it'll rub off on them and they'll do the same for you. Creating drama that's unnecessary. Is any drama necessary? I don't know. But there are people whose personalities, they have big personalities and they like to create drama. If things are going along comfortably and everyone's content, they suddenly create a big drama out of nowhere just for the sake of it, just to have some excitement in their life. But that can be really unnerving in a relationship, that you feel you can't trust them, that things are too up and down for you. It depends if your personality matches theirs, but if it does, odds are you're both creating drama, and it's a very explosive relationship in that you are constantly fighting and constantly making everything a big issue, and it's be all and end all every time you have an argument. And you want to be able to have differences of opinion without it being the end of the relationship. And as things progress in a relationship, try not to be mean. Sometimes people disguise that and say, oh, well, I don't mean it. But then don't do it. Say what you mean, do what you say you're going to do, and don't be nasty to the person that you're supposed to love and be happy with, because it's not funny and it's not pleasant for that person, and they will eventually take it to heart and think, well, why am I with this person if they dislike me so much, if they don't like when I do this or do that. And it's like you're scolding them and criticizing them all the time. And definitely you would question why you're in that kind of relationship, because it feels very toxic that the other person just doesn't appreciate you and doesn't seem to like anything about you. So don't be mean, and if you are, then you want to ask yourself why you're acting like that, and maybe reassess whether you should be in that relationship. Be in a relationship where you don't constantly criticize and be nasty to the person you're with. Find someone that better suits you. I think there's that problem that people can date for a couple of years and then they feel they're invested and that it's too late to start again with someone else. It's too late. I spent 2 years with this person, I'm not going to find anyone else. Why would I do that? I'm going to try and fix them and change them and make them into what I now want. Well, that is not a good idea to try and do that. People are who they are. And yes, they grow and change slightly as they grow older, but that doesn't mean their basic personality is going to change just because you want it to. And it's not too late for you to ever start again with someone new if what you have isn't right. If what you have is very negative and you feel miserable, then don't keep feeling miserable for years and years and years. Why? And quite often people in relationships are afraid of being alone. They're afraid of leaving that relationship and starting again, and the time in between finding someone else, being alone. But that time when you're not with someone, you can sometimes sort of reset what your life is going to be like. Maybe you thought you would always live in a certain town, and when you're alone, instead of in a relationship, you move out of that town and start somewhere new or go travelling. And there's that whole thing of finding yourself before you try and make a relationship with others, because then you know what you want and who will make you happy. If there's a decision to be made, putting it off and procrastinating about it just is frustrating for your partner. They want you to decide, and if it's a joint decision, fine. Or if you struggle to decide, then bring them into that decision. Ask them to be your sounding board, and so that they've got an input and they can better understand why you're delaying a decision, because it can be really frustrating for your partner not knowing why you're not making the decision and thinking, well, just get on with it, just decide, come on, decide, and that pressure can make it even worse for you. So yeah, bring partners into making decisions if you're struggling to make that decision on your own. And in the early days of a relationship, there's this thing about who should make the first move, who should contact the other one for the next date. I think the more you chase, the less likely the other person is to make any effort at all. And you don't want to be chasing somebody who isn't really that interested in you. If they want to see you, they are going to respond to the first message you send. So, 27 messages later, get the hint. They're just not interested. And the other thing is, if you're chasing a person hard in that you're turning up or outside their work and where they go to lunch and waiting when they leave from work, stuff like that, they're going to think you're going to be like that during the entire relationship, and they don't want to be with a person like that because it's too pushy and it's too much pressure. To start a relationship, they want things to be fun and easy and not have the hassle. And the other thing is, if you're pushing hard and you're sending lots of messages and not getting any response and you're being ghosted and stuff like that, it's painful and it's hurtful to you, and you'd be far better just to let that go and move on and think, well, I don't care anyway, and just do something else, not necessarily looking for someone else immediately. Take yourself off on a day trip or something and just do something for you, and maybe spend time with friends instead that don't expect you to be hooked up with someone. Anyway, these are all my tips on how to deal with relationships. Like I said, not qualified to give them you, just my own life experience. Take it with a pinch of salt or use one of them to help you out. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and come back next time. Bye for now.